Welcome to DABCC Radio,
where smart people listen.
Virtualization and Cloud Talk,
Featuring cutting-edge solutions from the hottest companies around the globe.
broadcasting from the DABCC offices in sunny Sarasota, Florida.
Surrounded by computers, books, and Legos.
A Microsoft MVP, Citrix Charter CTP, VMware vExpert.
And your host, Douglas Brown.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DABCC Radio. We have a really exciting episode for you today. We brought on a community guy, someone that's been around, and probably a lot of you guys might know, should know, and if you don't know, you will after this episode because he's a downright great guy, And we had so much fun recording this, and I think you guys will have a lot of fun listening to it. So today we have Andre Leibovici with us, and he's going to, I don't know what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, actually I do, but we're going to talk about so many fun things. So what do I say? I can list them all, or we could just dive into this episode. So let's just dive into this episode. And like I said, I had so much fun recording it, and I think you guys are going to have so much fun listening to it. So with no further ado, here's my interview with my good buddy, Andre.
Okay, Andre, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today, and I look forward to chatting with you. We have not had you. You looked it up, I guess. We have not had you on since October 2014. Is that right?
Well, it's been a long time, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a long time.
A lot of things have changed since then.
Well, definitely. But we'll get to those. So for the people who might not know you, and as I always say, shame on you, you need to know this guy. Who are you? Can you tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Andre Leibovici. I'm just a community guy. I like to write. I have write this in this blog, myvirtualcloud.net. I've been writing for probably about 7-8 years now. And I love to interact with people and provide my ideas and what I think about technology, where things are going. And look, we are in an amazing time to talk about technology when I think like the inflection point between the public and private cloud and application deploying models. It's just amazing. And a geek at heart, really. That's what I am.
Yeah, me too. And, it is an amazing time. I'm looking forward to this. We were going to record a couple days ago, but I wasn't feeling that well. And I really wanted to be in clear mind because you are such a fun guy to chat with. And we're just going to sort of see where this conversation goes, right?
Yeah, stop with that. I'll tell you the truth. For those that are actually listening, Doug is probably one of the nicest guys out there in the industry. You're so nice. I know that we haven't seen each other much in conferences and all that. We had a couple opportunities to meet. But man, it's so nice to talk, so easy to talk. Whenever we meet, it's just a blast. I really appreciate everything you do for the community.
Oh, I thank you so much.
You also have a new gig, right?
Yeah, I did. I still do the DABCC stuff. I will always do the DABCC stuff, but I got a little bit bored, to be honest with you. I wanted to do something else, and I should have taken you up on that Nutanix when you were joking with me about coming to work for Nutanix years ago. But that's all rocket science. I'm not a rocket scientist, So yeah, I took a job at IGEL as the Global Technology Evangelist, which is so much fun because my job is to do exactly what I'm doing right now. I do podcasts, I go to talk with people, I just get to share and not just about IGEL, also about the space, right? Turn people on to what's going on in the space. And that's just so much fun. I can't believe they pay me for it. I shouldn't say that because they'll be like, we don't need the pay.
Yeah. Well, look, I just talking to someone here, and the daughter is actually traveling the world as a sommelier, just tasting wine. So, some of the gigs are pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, you bet. I don't taste that much wine. I'm a beer drinker. Wine is a little bit much for me. The problem with wine is I wake up with a nasty hangover. So beer, I can have a few beers.
How much you drinking, though?
Well, it tastes so darn good, my friend, So I had a friend tell me many years ago, if it tastes good, spit it out. It's not good for you. It's so true, too. If you think about all the yummy things in life, If it tastes good, spit it out. If it doesn't taste good, eat a lot of it. Broccoli, you know.
Yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed of what I've been drinking. I got into gin and tonic, and I know a lot of people will say, "Oh, you shouldn't be drinking that. It's perfume and all that." But I don't know why. I think I can drink more if I drink gin and tonic.
No, this podcast is completely going away from tech, but you know what I've gotten into is Sambuca.
Sambuca, yeah.
Lord. So when I'm in Berlin, when we go out, we go to this Italian restaurant quite often. And when we're there, after we're done with our meal, we ask for the check and they say, "Would you like a schnapps?" We're like, "Yes, absolutely." So my girlfriend gets a Amaretto, I get a Sambuca, and it's free. It's like the mint, It's some places I don't want a mint. I want a Sambuca, damn it. You know what I mean? So it's really yummy because it tastes like candy, and I love black licorice. So I'm addicted to this stuff. I don't drink it by myself at home, but whenever I'm out and about, actually I do have a bottle, but I don't sit around at home. Only when she's there, then I'll be like.
That said, we do really need to meet and have some drinks together.
We would definitely do that. I will be at VMworld this year, so hopefully you will be too.
I'll be there too. So I'll be there with my new company. So
well, let's get going. Let's get going. Let's talk about this. So you've been at Nutanix for a long time, and you recently left Nutanix, which really surprised me when I saw that. And that's how this whole podcast thing came up, right? And so why did you leave Nutanix? Nutanix is awesome. And where are you now? And what's up?
Yeah, no. So actually, I clearly remember when I joined your podcast a few years ago, probably 3.5 years ago. So I had just joined and I came in to actually talk about HCI. And you're asking, like, tell me about this HCI stuff, hyper-converged infrastructure. What is it? And I guess here I'm again in a new company to talk about Open Convergence. HCI versus OCI. So here we go. So no, I had an amazing time at Nutanix. Had a blast. 3.5 years. It went from 300 people to whatever they say in public numbers now, 2,700. Went through IPO, and a lot of learning and a lot of experience. But I got to a point where I was looking for something else to do, and I've been talking to a few other companies in the industry, looking what's next, what's coming, what I think it's going to be game changer in the technology space, either in the enterprise or public cloud. And talking to these guys, I invited for a coffee and talking to Ganesh, one of the co-founders here at the new company, which is called Datrium. He was one of the very early engineers at VMware. And so others, like many very early engineers at VMware, and also from Data Domain, that's sort of like the founding team, and telling me a little bit of the technology. I said, "Oh, it's okay. I'm okay at Nutanix." But with the package between the technology and the opportunity to actually be a CTO and help to evangelize and also drive solutions was a game changer for me, and I really embraced, and I'm loving it.
Well, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So what is this? I mean, can you explain, maybe it's the time to explain what Open Convergence is.
Yeah, sure. So here's the thing, though. HCI is fantastic and really changed the consumption model, bringing cloud type consumption to the enterprise, being able to, grow in smaller increments and linearly and so on, and be able to host, applications, most diverse applications on top of this unified platform. This was a game changer in many ways, right? This technology is not new, though, right? Google has been doing something similar for the past, 15, 20 years. It's just that probably 6, 7, 8 years ago, companies started actually to bring similar technology to the market. So what these guys did is they looked at the hyper-converged environment. They looked at SAN solutions, and where's the disconnection? What is missing? So what they created is a platform that allows you to scale performance and capacity for storage independently. So think of a SAN, right? It's a storage area network, and you have controllers on the SAN, and all the traffic goes through those controllers, and eventually you bottleneck. So what they did is they removed those controllers and they moved those controllers to the servers as a software stack that scales out as you add more compute nodes. So as you add more compute nodes or more servers, you actually adding controllers in a similar fashion than what you do with like HCI and solutions, right? The difference is that HCI will have all this storage capacity in hard drives or flash devices aggregated to a single cluster. So every time you add a new node, you're adding not only compute, but you're adding also capacity. And you end up with a lot more capacity than you actually need. It's not like, from a cost benefit perspective, $1 per gigabyte is not effective. So what these guys did is like they moved the controllers in a software stack controller into the servers, and they have a different cluster that's called the data node cluster, or the data node, where the persistent data is kept. So it's sort of like a combination of an intelligent software that manages the back-end storage and the active caching and the flash devices on the nodes. So really, it's it provides things like workload isolation. You can use your own servers. You can put in VMEs as in the servers to make a use of local device. So all the reads, as an example, are local. Overall, we're talking about better density, scalability, performance, and simplicity, right? I think that's what everybody's looking for nowadays: simplicity, because that's what the cloud is offering. And you still need to host some workloads on premise. Not everything is going to the cloud, at least at this point in time. I think in the foreseeable future, more and more workloads will go to the cloud, either as a EC2 instance or using like software as a service applications. But still many applications that run on premise. There's data that is you need to keep on premise for data sovereignty, for security, for cost, for carbon footprint, whatever that is. And for those workloads that need to run on-premise or in a MSP, like a service provider, we do provide a good solution that enables them to start small, scale, pay as they go, and yet having this capacity disaggregated from performance. And to be honest, Doug, this is how these web scale companies are doing today. If you look at how Facebook has their OpenRack and Bryce Canyon, the way they're doing storage is completely disaggregated from compute. So there's a disconnection there on what they are doing today, what they were doing 15 years ago, and what enterprises are doing today, I guess. There's a clear, I think it's a lot of things to talk about on the stack, what do we do? But overall, when you think about the solution, it's all about simplification, automation, and making storage as simple as possible.
Very interesting. So what type of customer would benefit from this? What's your target market?
So as today, any vSphere customer, any vSphere organization that's using vSphere, we have it's a driver or vape that goes in vSphere. It's sort of like the storage stack that lives in vSphere and talks directly to the local SSDs or NVMEs and to the back end data nodes, if you will. So basically, any of those. We've got about 150 customers or so, 150 deployments. It's a new company, but it's a growing company, well funded. The way I see it, it's the next big thing in the enterprise infrastructure space is this type of infrastructure that we provide. More hypervisors will be supported, but from a market or vertical perspective, it could be anything. We are good for VDI. Most of our customers today are actually running tier 1 applications, databases, data warehouse workloads, because we provide extreme performance at a very low cost per gigabyte. So it's really, really interesting.
Very interesting. So can you walk me through? So let's say I want to try this out, or if I want to, deploy it. What do I need to? Can you walk us through, architecture? How do I get this thing up and running? Things like that. You know what I mean? Try to verbally draw this for us.
Yeah. So differently than hyper-convergence, where you actually need to forklift workloads into your new environment. With Datrium, you can run side by side. So you can use your existing vSphere hosts in your existing SAN, and all you need to do is make sure you connect those vSphere hosts to Datrium. Once you connect them to Datrium, and by the way, this is all managed through vCenter, so there's no second UI to manage or anything like that. Once you connect to the Datrium data node, the system automatically will take care of deploying this VIB, which is the VMware installation bundle, into your hosts and configure everything for you. So there's no really any configuration or even like when talking about erasure coding, deduplication, compression, this is all configured by default. There's no knobs or buttons to press to configure, so you don't have to be an expert. And once you do that, you're already actually talking, you see a data store in your vSphere environment, and you can start using and leveraging all the the local performance of those flash devices in a NVMe, and also the capacity from the backend, the data nodes, right? So today's one data node supports 32 hosts vSphere, and in the future this is growing like exponentially. Yeah, I can't tell you exactly where we are going and what's happening. There will be some announcements very soon, but it's really, really cool stuff. And it's kind of the evolution of the features that I see where the roadmap is today and tomorrow is like incredible, really, really fast. So,
cool.
Yeah, vSphere, vCenter. All you need is a couple SSDs inside the node to leverage for local performance, so local reads, and then you get this data node from Datrium. It's new. I think we are the only ones actually doing something like that on the market today. So it's different. Like from a marketing standpoint, I'm not a marketing guy, of course. I am a community guy, but I'm not a marketing person. But they say that it's faster than flash arrays, it's faster than HCI. And when I look at the technology and I see the benchmarks, and I can confirm that. So as my my role here is actually to work on these solutions like sort of Exchange and SQL and data warehouse and big data is Splunk, SAP, VDI, and actually test, validate, and do benchmarks so we can push all that to the market. So the market then is aware of oh, I can actually run that. And also provide the application training to our sales reps and to the systems engineers that go to customers, so they can have like intelligent conversations with customers about applications, and not just trying to push a pizza box. I think that's the point.
Very interesting. Would you call this sort of like software-defined hyper-convergence, or am I completely wrong there?
Yeah, that's interesting, right? From a marketing standpoint, they call it Open-Convergence.
Sure.
In a way that you can bring your own servers, your own hosts, as long as you don't have like a very old RAID controller that's like 5-year-old, it should be okay.
Sure.
You can, if you don't want to have your own servers, or if you want just a single throat to choke, we sell the Datrium nodes as well. So we can sell you like the entire stack, the nodes and the data nodes. The data nodes are also standard. The standard x86 servers just have been configured for specific configurations for redundancy, availability, and so on. So you need to buy that from us. But yeah, so and you do have flash and SSDs in the nodes for the local reads. So all the reads, like when you boot a VM, all the reads come from the local drive. So it's very fast. It just makes sense to keep, the data as close as possible to compute. When you think about, arrays, and moving into NVMe as an example, like a single NVMe will saturate a 40 gigabit Ethernet link, and where do we go from there? How do you, if you're not putting like your data close to compute, and you start using an NVMe, or even like if you talk about 3D X point, it can go over 100 gigabit Ethernet. there's no way for the networking stack to support that today. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. So more and more you'll see these devices, fast performing devices in the computer, in the servers themselves. So when you think about the stack, it is a little bit of hyperconvergence, but it's disaggregated. The capacity is not there. It's just the performance that's at the nodes. And what's really interesting, is that it makes servers stateless again. If you recall, in the SAN time, all the servers were stateless. If you lost a server, the VMs would go to a different node, and everything would be up and running without any, data resiliency concerns.
Sure.
In the HCI environment, hyperconverged, if you lose a node, VMs will go to a different node, and there is another copy of the data, but there was data in that node. So for some period of time, you compromise your data resiliency. And then will be replicated over time. But if you lose a different node or a different drive while you lost the initial one, then you have a problem. You might have potentially lost data, need to restore from backups. This open converged architecture really brings back stateless servers, which I personally loved. It was fantastic. I used to boot my servers from the SAN, and it just makes sense. So I don't have to worry about them if they fail, if they die, if the drive fails. The data is not there.
Sure. No, that's a very good point. Very, very good point.
I'm talking a lot here.
No, that's great. You're the guest. You're supposed to be talking. Nobody comes here to listen to me. Come on. If anything, I'll get people to say, well, why didn't you ask this question? Like, well, I never thought about that question. So
I'm actually looking very closely into VDI and even like Citrix PVS.
We're gonna get there. Don't get ahead of me. We will get to VDI, okay? So I got a couple more questions. I'm gonna take you right. That's my job. Your job is to talk. My job is to lead you right along. So I got plenty to talk with you about. So I hope you have the time. So so that being said, is there still a place for hyperconvergence, or are you guys in your mind, and it just this is a better idea?
I think there's place for everything, right? There's place for our flash arrays. There's place for hybrids. There's place for hyperconvergence. There's place for open convergence. What I think is, when you start talking about scalability, that's where hyperconvergence will eventually suffer over time, having to break down clusters in multiple smaller chunks. I think that's where things will go. But over time, I do think and I do believe that this architecture makes more sense for most enterprises and service providers over time. VDI is a good example. I know you're gonna get into, but VDI, you need a lot of compute, but you don't need a lot of with the new advancements like VAI, VCAI, the deduplication, compression. You actually don't need a lot of capacity. You need a lot of performance. So being able to grow performance without actually growing capacity just makes sense. You don't want to pay for storage if you don't need. You only want on a performance. So there are certain things that are good use cases for hyperconvergence and for SAN, and I think there are a lot of use cases where open convergence will be the default in the future. Whenever we're not talking about cloud, that's public cloud and so on. That's a different story, like higher level orchestration and so on. And I think that's ultimately where we need to go, because infrastructure is boring.
Infrastructure is not boring. It's just not that sexy. But it's not boring. It's especially nowadays. It's not boring, right? There's so much like what you guys are doing. There's so much innovation in every, layer in the stack nowadays. It's quite amazing. I mean, you and I grew up when things were pretty static, right? And innovation was few and far between, or it was, but nowadays it's just exploding. We'll get to that because I want to ask you about all this great stuff that's going on, the fun things that we play with on the side. It
is amazing, really, how fast we go. It is was not long ago that people started talking about hyperconvergence, and now there is something else that is coming.
It's like Moore's law for, Moore's Law I talk about Moore's Law all the time, man. And because it gave us, the compute power, it gave us the storage, it gave us the cost, right? But there's also almost like a Moore's Law for innovation, which is a derivative of the faster, cheaper, more available, right? And that's, I think, why we're seeing all this. The cloud leverage, is the framework for everything nowadays, and you guys are leveraging it heavily, right? So I mean, it's amazing what you can do, right?
Yeah, I think most are still trying to figure out what the cloud really means, right? I mean, it's to some extent, it's for new applications. If you company and develop something new, you might go to Amazon and start writing to their APIs and start using scalable databases and function as a service and so on. But for a large majority of enterprises where they have systems that have been running for 15 years or more, what do? Do they move to the cloud? It's tough. It's not easy. Being a CIO today is not an easy task, because you're under pressure from your company, from the board, to save on costs. Say, why don't we move to the cloud? Why staying on-prem? Why do you need to keep all these people on board? And at the same time, the CEO say, well, my people is actually taking care of the day-to-day operations, make sure everything is okay. Who is actually taking care in Amazon? Can I call someone there? Can I? Probably not, right? So there is an outage. That's it. And when it comes back, it comes back. It is an inflection point. I don't disagree.
Yeah, I think the cloud is it used to be a destination. Now it's a service, right? It used to be it used to be the internet, right? And now it's become a service. We don't necessarily, we're older, so we still have different behavior that these millennials do, right? But millennials, that's a podcast within itself. I can do a whole hour on just having fun with poor millennials. It's like a punching bag for adults. Millennials, the punching bag for adults. There, what do I say? Kids don't go to websites per se. Now it's the storage repository. We have the apps, the what have you. You know what I mean? Now there's still the legacy up there. There's still websites. I mean, obviously dabcc.com, right? But at the same time, you know what I mean? That's that chain. That's what I call the cloud. The other thing is still just the web. But it's quite interesting. And then you have public and private cloud. So I want to ask you real quick about that. What are you seeing? Customers deploying public, private, hybrid. Why? What's the difference? I'll just throw that at you.
Well, public cloud, definitely. Like if you consider public cloud, AWS and Azure, there are a number of customers leveraging either through infrastructure as a service or software as a service, like Office 365.
Wouldn't that be? Sorry to interrupt you, but I want when you think public cloud, I want to put some a framework around this. When I think of public, I think of and I know I'm wrong here, but I think of a company that's that's moved to the cloud, right? Everything's now in the cloud. And I think those are more few and far between. And the rest is where they have a little bit here, a little bit up there, right? Like when you talk AWS, how many customers that we're dealing with have actually all in on anything, on AWS, right? They're not, right? So wouldn't that be more hybrid?
Well, I would say that the new companies have better chance to actually be in the cloud. But even like that, look at Dropbox. They've been moving their data from AWS to on-premise to Google to even they trying to figure out what's the best way to manage their services, and they were born in the cloud, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But it's well-established companies. They are everywhere. It's just that the cloud is easy. It's easy consumption, right? Anyone can go and get some service up there. But when you make a decision about we're gonna move to the cloud, I think it's got to be a little bit more complex, because you have service dependencies and storage that needs to live close to the applications and so on. It's not so simple. It needs to be a top-down decision that's the way we are going. And generally speaking, I don't see that happening yet. That said, when you talk about private cloud, also we need to define what private cloud is, right? It's some people say that hyper-convergence will create a public cloud. For me, this is just infrastructure, or even open convergence. This is just infrastructure, which is boring. But anyway,
Stop it.
If you go on the layer above, we start talking about OpenStack and consumption models and orchestration, about container orchestration, if they're actually using. Now we start to go into more the realm of what private cloud would look like. And then if you're actually able to make the hybridity a real thing, public and hybrid, and manage everything if it was a single instance, and move workloads around and have the scalability and so on, then we have the hybrid cloud. I don't think there is anybody yet doing that successfully. I think the one that's the closest, probably Azure Stack. They're supposed to be releasing soon, which is you're going to be able to manage on-premise services and cloud services through the single interface, through a single UI. They are closer to that, but in my opinion, I don't think there is anybody doing hybrid cloud yet.
Interesting. I like how you said the app needs to be where the data is. It was just, you threw that out there, and I'm grabbing hold of it, because this is something I talk about all the time with DAS. I love, the future's the cloud, right? We can all agree on that, right? You definitely agree with that. So there's always, what's that? I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
And there's always room for on-prem. You always want, there's still going to be on-prem in the future. Nothing ever dies, right? But things will move more and more to the cloud. If you're a new company, start with the cloud, right? Cloud first. There's no reason to go legacy if you're just starting up. But
yeah, I actually read a very interesting article. If you like apocalyptic stories about the death of the hypervisor, saying that hypervisor, that's it. It's gone. Containers will be the future, and there's always people that will, go in different directions, and I think there's space for everything.
I think containers are the future, though. I think that there'll come the problem with the hypervisor is, and it's the hypervisor is phenomenal, right? I mean, come on, we both remember when we first found VMware. I remember the call when my boss at the time I was working at Citrix said, "Doug, you need to, Rick is playing with this thing called VMware." I was like, "What's that?" He's like, "Oh," and he explains it to me, and I was like, "So you want me to try VMware?" And I didn't say that. He's sort of Zen. He was the Zen master, greatest guy. If you know Arlo Pranos, greatest guy. Anyway, but I remember that very clearly. But I think there's an end to it. I think that the future is, of course, nothing ever dies. It'll always be around. There's still Novell, right? But at the same time, containers, that's just a better solution. Doesn't have the security vulnerabilities that a hypervisor has, or potential, right? It doesn't have the performance cost to it. We just need to get it off of damn DevOps and into the mainstream, right? Yeah.
No, I see where things are going, and definitely moving towards containers. The problem that I see, for vendors today, they're still trying to figure out how to make money out of containers, and without actually vendors and ecosystems supporting, a technology, it's the adoption is not as fast as it could be.
Yeah.
So I think that, if you look at where the money is today, is to support virtual machines. So you see inroads into containers for from all sorts of vendors out there. They're still trying to figure out a revenue model for that, I guess.
Maybe it just ends up in our cloud services, maybe it ends up, it ended up in Windows, right? Windows Server as containers. So the ability to do it. So, maybe that's where it ends up, So I don't know, but I hear you with the ecosystem piece loud and clear. That is, I've always said the greatest thing a company can do is become a platform. Because once you're a platform, people require you. Now you have people that depend upon you, and they're going to do everything to save you, right?
And then you need to treat them well.
Yes, right? Absolutely.
Make sure everybody's happy.
Yeah, that's a quick way to destroy yourself and start being mean to your ecosystem. Start eating them up. You always got a room. That's what I think Microsoft has done so well with for so many years, and they also got abused for it too. They said, "Oh, this component isn't that great," but they took it. Let's take terminal services for example. Good example. RDS is not that great. It has some weak points. Okay, great. That leaves this ecosystem for Citrix, VMware, Workspot, you name it. You know what I mean? and just down the line. And so in return, now those guys are taking this technology and evangelizing, growing it. The innovation's happening there. Microsoft shouldn't do that. They should leave the and then in return they create these companies that require them. You want to have some fun. Go into a platform, a company that has a platform, be it VMware, Microsoft, Citrix, whatever, right? And then insult that company. The people treated you like you insulted God because that company is their God. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think the work that Satya Nadella is doing with Microsoft is just phenomenal, right? He completely changed the culture of the company and moving in a different direction and opening to different operating systems is just incredible. I think we don't see many companies doing that in a lifetime.
Yeah. Microsoft definitely reinvented themselves in that sense. The Microsoft way of Windows only. Like Ballmer and Gates prevented their children from buying Apple products. I mean, come on, man. Is
that true?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's articles about it. No Apple in this household. And it's like, well, yeah, but please, you're the one that funded those guys. It's your fault. Although you and I are both proud Apple users, aren't we?
Yeah. Better not talk over discussion there before the podcast started.
Yeah.
Things not working.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I don't know whose fault that is, and I'll find out. So we had guys listen. We had all sorts of troubles recording this thing, and I still haven't figured it out. So we went a different. I have a plan B. A good engineer always has a plan B, right? So we went to plan.
So B. if the audio is not good, it means it's not. It's not
his fault. Yeah, it's my fault. Everything's my fault. Anything that's wrong in life, blame it on me. My girlfriend, my ex-wife, and my mom does. So, very interesting. So, we started down the DAS route, with, I started to say, and then we digressed, but that's what I wanted to do with you is that, the app needs to be where the data is. And if you think about Citrix, it was always, why did we deploy Citrix? When I say Citrix, I'm not talking NetScalers, I'm not talking ShareFile, I'm not talking XenApp, I'm talking MetaFrame when it was just called Citrix, right? Why did we?
Let me make just a little brief point here.
Please.
The data needs to be where the app is. But that said, what I believe that ultimately needs to happen is the data needs to follow the app. And what I mean by that is if the app needs to run on-premise today, the data is on-premise. And unless the application is actually built to support like distributed architecture and data, and blobs of data and everywhere. But that's not the case for most applications, as you know. I do think we need to get to the point where applications should be able to move around between data centers, between clusters, between clouds, and the data should be able to follow. Even that's not like preemptive, like doing before, which is like a DR style kind of thing where you keep replicating. But even like after the fact, there are things that need to happen to from an infrastructure perspective, of course. But I think we do have the technology when you talk about the duplication and compression and data reduction in general. What we can do today, that is feasible. Maybe not for the applications that are terabytes and terabytes or petabytes of data may not be possible. But overall, I think it's possible, and that's where we need to get to. But anyway, I just wanted to frame
that's perfect. I like that you did that because I wanted to bring up DAS, right? First of all, DAS is the future. Anyone that wants to argue with that, I will argue all day long. I believe that we're going to wake up one day and Amazon's going to have taken over. I firmly believe that too. I could be wrong, but I firmly believe that it should happen. Whether they do it or not is a different thing, but they probably will because Bezos is a smart guy, and he hires really smart people. But that being said, my problem with DAS today is that we have some great solutions. Workspot is a phenomenally architected solution, right? Talk about, disruptive.
I know that I'm actually an advisor for Workspot.
Yeah, you did say that to me, yeah. So I'm going to ask you some questions about these guys. I just did a podcast with Brad. Everyone loves Brad. Just brilliant. And there's no editing required with Brad. It's just pure brilliance. And
don't edit me either.
No, I don't have to.
Just keep it here.
No, we're gonna have fun. Don't worry. There's no editing. So, but what I'm trying to say here is that my problem with DAS is that the app is local, the app is in the cloud, and the data tends to be local. And the reason we deployed Citrix is because we wanted those to be in the same network, right? The same, location, so that we had snappy Outlook, we had snappy CRM, DRP apps, right? Everything was really fast. Do you think so? A couple questions. One, am I wrong? Do you think that that there's solutions that we can deploy a DAS solution today with on-prem data, or is it we're just this is the future and we'll get there type of thing? What's your philosophy on that? What's your where's your head on that one?
That I probably a couple of years ago I wrote I think I didn't remember, there was like an open statement against DAS.
Well, anybody that's old enough, we would be anti-DAS in those days. Absolutely.
Exactly. So let me frame it again. So so the DAS that we're trying to create in that time was a purely cloud-based DAS, right? Where you have everything running up in Amazon, or everything running up in Azure, or everything running up somewhere else, and most of your applications and data are still on-premise. Things have changed over the last 2 or 3 years, of course. And if you look at what Workspot started doing, so they do have this control panel that lives in the cloud, and it's like highly scalable and all that. And they do connect to AWS and Azure to provide that stuff. But also, they do connect to your on-premise enterprise. And if you want to deploy your DAS solution, VDI desktops on-premise, they support that. So first of all, they provide the combination, right? And I do think that now, Citrix and Horizon View also provide that to some extent.
Yep, hybrid DAS.
The second thing is we are much less dependent today on on-premise applications. From Office 365 to Salesforce and Workday. A lot of the applications that are used to use on-premise are in the cloud today, so you have less dependencies. So maybe the small number of applications that you still host in on-premise can actually work well in application remoting environments, and you can access that. So overall, it got easier to adapt and support this. That's where I think where we are. From remote access and hosting all these operating systems in the cloud, it got easier to accept and support. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Of course it does. And very good point about modern DAS, right? It's not just hey, you move everything up to the cloud. I love what Workspot is doing. It's definitely the future. They need a good protocol, but I know that'll be coming too. And RDP, as Benny Trish would say, is as good as anything out there.
Although we got a little much better with recent releases. I've seen some comparisons of the latest RDP versions, older ones. It's incredibly better. So I wouldn't disagree with you.
If you talk to Benny about it, and I've asked him many times, and in fact, I've even I've made the old slip of ICA is better than or HTX. Is better than RDP in every situation, and Benny will immediately jump on me saying, no, let's look at that. That's not true anymore. And
what I like about those guys is you don't need to consider infrastructure for supporting VDI or DAS. It's everything is hosted by them. It's all you need if you're doing on-premise. All you need is the host that will actually run the VMs. That's it. And I'll remove some of the managing and supporting and connection
some
server,
of it removes almost all of the headache, right?
Scaler and so on. Yeah,
it removes all that. The entire. It removes everything. I mean, all that infrastructure, not everything, but it removes a good chunk of that infrastructure that's sort of legacy infrastructure, right?
Yeah, it's a supporting infrastructure, absolutely.
Yeah, support infrastructure. There you go. It removes the boring infrastructure, as you like to say.
Removing all the crap.
All the crap. Andre said it here. You're removing all the crap. So when I was at Citrix, I was told a few things. I wasn't allowed to use the word.
Okay, maybe you can bleep.
Junk. I wasn't junk stuff. crap, all sorts of. They're like, yeah, that's just. But and I was like, but how do I describe the competition? And they're like, well, you got a point, Doug, but crap is not a great word. So I stuck with it anyway. I just didn't do it around them, right?
Yeah. And even like talking about VDI, all the discussions that we used to have about persistent desktops, non-persistent. This is, I think, to the most extent, is all gone as well, right? It's like there are ways to nowadays to get very similar experience to persistent desktops without being persistent and so on. We have evolved. That's good.
Yeah. And a lot of that's thanks to Moore's law.
Yeah, so, and VDI is still not dead, despite everybody claiming.
I think we're going to have the year of VDI. I think that some year it's going to happen.
It's next year. Next year is the year.
So remember all that. It's the year of VDI, and I was just like, stop it, stop saying that. I like you, and
that was Brian's fault. That was I blame Brian for that.
Was that Brian who did that?
It was Brian. He came out and said, "This is the year of the VDI."
Somebody paid him well. So yeah, he's smarter than that. Brian's no chump. So
look, I'll be honest with you. Like I still see like very large VDI deployments being like in deployment, like 100,000 desktops as an example.
What's the future? I mean, come on. It's let's be honest. Citrix is the best way to deploy an app. It's also the best way to deploy desktop. And as we move into the Nirvana phones, as Chris Flex says, as we move into the anywhere computing, as we move into the the edge world computing, where we're everywhere, why should we be attached to something? That should live up in the cloud. You should drop your phone into a cradle. The guys at Samsung just released a really cool little cradle where you just drop your Galaxy in there, your whatever that thing is. And it's everything. It's everything. That's your computer. It's really just sort of your authentication piece. It's like what I have. It's my smart card in a way, right? Because everything else is sitting up in the cloud. And you take it with you wherever you go. You plug it into a monitor. That's the future. Right? And DAS and VDI or, whatever you want to call it, but the desktop in the cloud or your services in the cloud, and I always want to have a desktop because I think of a desk, can you imagine not working with a desk? You imagine sitting with a chair and just picking up the files as you needed them? No, you need some place to put that. And in the desktop to me is like the top of my desk, which I have junk over here, right?
So I actually just came back from a couple of days. I went up to Seattle and San Diego, and now I'm back. And I went for 2 days decided not to take my laptop. I just took my my tablet and my phone. Yeah. I mean, you can do stuff there, but it's not. You're not productive. You can't.
Well, unless you're a millennial. And you and I, we need a computer. I've had this argument with my girlfriend, who's a little bit younger than me, and she can do everything off of an iPad. She can work 100%. She doesn't need a laptop at all. And I'm like, but look, you can't, these texts.
That's not true. She's not. Is she in the workforce? Is she creating PowerPoint presentations?
She's doing PowerPoints, yeah, and she does them with the Apple Pencil even. So she'll create the thing and then she'll weave in the pencil. So when she's doing it, she's now brings sort of PowerPoint 3-dimensional, right? Because she's writing with the thing on it. It's really fabulous, but she's younger than, she thinks in a different way than you and I do. I agree with you. I have to have my Mac. I don't leave home without it. Let's say a server goes down. Well, not going to fix that on my iPad.
How do you record your podcast without your computer?
You can record podcasts on a iPad or a iPhone.
All right, I lost on this one.
Yeah, of course you can. I can't do it, but I guarantee that there's a good chunk of the podcasts out there using those devices only. They're very fast. The iPads is my modern iPad Pro is as fast as the as my first Mac that I started recording podcasts on. Right?
Yeah, I think I got to accept that I'm getting old. That's
the thing is these kids, and that's what's weird for it, Andre, is that you and I grew up in a world where we controlled everything, right? It was awesome being a tech guy, and an admin, right? You will do what I say when I say it. No, you will not have that. And then someone mess with you, you just take away their access for a few days and then you give it back. Oh, we had problems. You know what I mean? Nowadays it's the complete opposite. Nowadays they control us. We don't control them.
Fair enough.
What happened? Now that's a question for you. What happened? How did we lose control?
Everything started with shadow IT, I'll tell you. Like people people at work, like even our generation, like at work, like we actually the ones that actually started going out and getting new technologies and not being in conformity with the rules of the workplace, like either with Dropbox or Box or using different tools and chat, and we started not following. They are just taking what we did to the next level.
That's such a good point. I'm going to start using that with millennial friends. That is true. Because, the first thing we did was we wiped our computers. They gave us an image and a set of guidelines on what we can and can't do on our machines. So we just took that hard drive out and put another one in.
Yeah.
And that's exactly, we were the first shadow IT contributors or bad guys. Whatever the word I'm groping for. That's a very good point. I'm going to start using. That's a very good point. So, we're so far off of, I always create a base list of sort of talking points or questions, sort of follow. I've totally thrown those out the window with you. I hope.
Do you have any questions left?
I think I haven't even, that's what I'm saying. I haven't even looked at the list of questions. We're just sort of going down.
That's the thing. You are the nicest guy ever. Like, I'm honest about it. Like, whoever gets to see you in a conference should go and talk to you. Go and talk to Doug.
I'm fun. Let's put it that way. I'm a fun guy. But, conferences are interesting for me. I just finished with Synergy, and I have my little core group of friends that I like to go disappear with, you know what I mean, to sort of get away. But and see, because they're my, I see them each Synergy, or I see them, whenever I get a chance to see them, but rarely. But the rest of the time, I'm actually literally trying to meet new people. Right. Because it's like, man, I've met you. Okay, cool. And sometimes I get in trouble. Sometimes some of my friends are like, hey, you didn't spend time. We wanted to hang out. And it's like, well, I was trying to find new people, but that doesn't go over well. You're not good enough anymore. I want new people. But it's just fun to meet all these and see and hear what everyone's doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like to put faces and meet people in person, like that I've been talking or even discussing or arguing online, like on Twitter and so on. And I think Twitter is a great place to share your ideas and also look at different people's perspectives. And then a lot of people say they seem like either arrogant or that someone that's not nice. But for the most part, in my experience, most people are like in our industry. You go and meet in person, you say it completely changes your opinion to like, oh, what a nice person, what a nice guy, and a nice lady.
We're all just geeks, We're all just geeks having fun,
Yeah.
And we get paid for it. We're out, at a conference drinking some beer, and somebody's paying for it. I mean, come on. Can you ask for when you were 15 and they told you were going to do what you do today? Would you not just give anything for that or laugh and be like, yeah, I couldn't be that lucky? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love what I do. I use what I do as hobby as well. Yeah. So it's like I couldn't imagine myself doing something different. Maybe if I lived in a different time, I would, I don't know, like 1,000 years ago, probably I would be doing some crazy carpentry, like some building stuff.
Refining the wheel is what you would be doing. You would be making the wheel better. You're a builder. It's like I've always said, my dad raised a builder. He raised something likes to build things.
And now I'm moving into, as I move more and more and more into the business side, I'm loving building businesses. Like, I really found my passion in building startups and companies, and I just love it so much, and get it all hyped up with something new and go to customers, presenting conferences, use the technology myself. It's really, really interesting. As nice as actually building a product or coding or things that I still do as a hobby. Yeah. If you look at online, I have tools that I have created and all that, and I still support some of them. But I'm really enjoying the business side of work.
Yeah, but you set me up so many times. So I so agree with you. I still love to code. It's my favorite thing to do of all things, but I'm not that great at it. But I love to do it, and I don't get enough time doing it because I'm busy. But I also really enjoyed the business side of it, and I think that's one thing that engineers, so the engineers listening, the guys that are true engineers, really try to understand business. because you'll realize so many things that you either one, complain about, or two, just don't understand why they're doing it, which you're probably complaining about it. It'll make sense to you. And that's the biggest thing that I really enjoy, is looking back at, like, when I was an engineer, a true engineer, pure engineer, and then into today when I'm sort of sit a little bit in every box and a master of none, right?
No, I agree with you. I do think should understand business. Engineers should understand business, and business should understand a little bit of engineering. But ultimately, what I think is, like, you should do what makes you happy.
Of course.
Companies should really focus in actually providing career path for engineers to get to the same level as on the business side. Many advanced companies, they do have that today, but not all. Can you actually get to a senior VP level as an engineer, even as an individual contributor? You should be able to, with like same salary, same package, same everything, and really help engineers grow in their own, in what they like, in their own stream of work.
Yeah, no, you're exactly correct. What I meant by understand it is not to do it, but just to understand where they're coming from. And then it makes you a better engineer, right? I got very lucky when I was a junior engineer. I had a senior that taught me all that stuff. And I went in there kicking and screaming, that's not what I like. But it turned to be out to be very interesting. And then you said something else and I lost track of it. But darn it, it was good. You said, darn it. So you got my head. There's so many things. I'm having so much fun chatting with you that I don't know where I'm going now. But we'll go a different direction. So, what do I say? Sometimes I lose track. It's Friday, and it's at the end of 2 weeks on the road. I'm making excuses now. So anyway, how do you find time? Oh, I know what I was going to. Well, I don't know what I was going to go, but I have a different question. And around coding. And are you the one that coded the Alexa skill for Nutanix?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
yes.
Did you get the T-shirt?
T-shirt? What T-shirt? Was there a T-shirt?
Yes.
There was a T-shirt from Amazon, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. No, I did not.
I want the T-shirt. I have to. I'm developing. I haven't done it yet, but in my mind, I'm developing what I want of the Alexa skill, because darn it, I want that T-shirt.
I open sourced the code. You should be able to go on GitHub and get it.
I can get it and then submit it as my own and get your T-shirt?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
But
they actually giving you I think up to $100 a month to support costs. Like if you actually have to pay for
like infrastructure.
What's the name of the function as a service? Lambda, if you need to pay for Lambda, if you need to pay for EC2, which was my case, right? I had like database and I had APIs and all that. They actually give you up to $100 a month, so you don't have to pay for it. So
wow,
yeah.
Amazon is amazing, man. Now there's a company that's like I said earlier, I think we're all going to wake up one day and we're going to realize that Amazon has taken over the world. Our world, well, the complete world, but our world for sure. I mean, look at Workspaces. Workspaces is sort of this thing sitting off in the corner. No one's bitching about it. No one, it's not, it's not getting a negative rap, not getting positive, just sort of growing, right? And they're incrementing the thing. I just saw last week or earlier this week they released something, added onto it, right? And they're just getting better and better and better with it. Yeah,
I actually used it. So in between jobs, I had to return my laptop, my MacBook Pro to Nutanix, and I didn't have my new one. So what do I do, right? So I had at home this old, like probably 2-year-old Chromebook, and I said it's okay, but I can't do much here, right? There's some limitation to what you actually can do in a Chromebook, and that one's just fairly old, so it's quite slow. So I actually went to Amazon and got a virtual desktop from Amazon, and started working from there. That works pretty well.
But think, if they buy something like they build it, get themselves a really good protocol, buy Workspot, buy Liquidware, they got a kick-ass solution. They really do. So, hey, Andre, we're almost out of time. You have a hard stop, don't you?
I do. I have a meeting now.
I'm having so much fun. Usually I'm the master of managing time. I've always said, don't worry, I'll manage time. And I guess I did it. I'm going to get you out of here on time. But to the guys listening, we have to stop this fun. So,
hey, beers on me at VMworld, okay?
Yeah, well, for sure.
maybe Sambuca.
Ooh, well, no, Sambuca, that's a nightcap. It's not a day starter, right? That's a good way to start a day, but the day might be interesting. And that's, if you really want to have fun with me, come drink with me. We'll have a lot of fun. So
we will do that.
Okay. Andre, thank you so much. But real quick, before you go, can you tell us if somebody wants to learn more about what you're doing personally and then your new company, can you share those links with us and what they should do?
Yeah, sure. So I think the easiest way is go to datrium.com. That's to get to the company website, of course.
Can you spell
reach
that
out to me. Reach out to me on Twitter as well. It's complicated, right? It's at Andre Leibovici. Anyway, you probably can put as part of the description of the.
It'll be in the show notes.
Of the podcast. In my blog, which also talks about Datrium and a bunch of other things, which is myvirtualcloud.net.
Yeah, and it's if you guys don't know it, which if you don't, then I'm surprised. I'd be very surprised, but it's a really great blog, and Andre does a phenomenal job. So I got to get you out. We have 3 minutes before you need to jump. Hopefully you don't have to prepare anything because I'm going to drop you off right on time. So thank you so much for taking the time. I've so enjoyed this. We said we're going to have a conversation. We did, didn't we?
Absolutely.
So maybe I'll go back and look at
for the next time.
Well, we have a whole list of questions we should probably go through at some point, right? So,
hey, Doug, thanks very much. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. Sometimes these things are really fun. Well, to be honest with you, they're always fun. Not everyone, but most of them. 99.9% are fun. And then that 0.1% is really, really, really fun. And today, I really, really, really enjoyed this. So I hope you guys did too. Definitely check out what Andre's doing. Head over to his website and check out the new company. And just follow him on Twitter. And what do I say? Great, all-around great guy. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of DABCC Radio. If you enjoyed the show, please tell a friend, tweet about it, retweet the tweets that we tweet. There's a lot of tweets in that sense. And just have a great day, guys. Definitely head over to dabcc.com for the latest and greatest virtualization, cloud, news, mobile storage, security, IoT, even AI. We actually cover a lot of AI stuff now because it's actually one of the things, DABCC is a reflection upon me. It stands for Douglas Albert Brown Computer Company, which if you haven't heard that story, let me know and I'll tell you. Or actually go back and there's probably an episode. I know there's an episode. Don't ask me which one. We have 200 and some. And Alexa over there is talking to me because I said this secret name. Don't name your Alexa computer. It wakes up. So quite often, because you say that name quite often. I'm rambling at this point, but as you can tell, I had so much fun recording this. What else would I do but ramble a bit? And if you know me, I'm a rambler. So guys, thank you so much for listening. Head over to dabcc.com and have a great day. And again, thank you for listening to DABCC Radio. Thank you, Andre. Can you say DABCC?
DABC.
Say it again, DABCC.
DABC.
Can you say it again, DABCC?
DABC.
How about DABCC?
DABC.
DABCC.
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 DABCC.